Okay, hello and welcome back. Uh, this is a continuation of earlier. Uh, the one thing I was thinking of with Scream 6 is we could have something very similar to how the TV show was shot in season 2, with how Kieran was mainly portrayed as the one and only killer in season 2. And I would like to kind of see something similar to that done maybe in Scream 6 or 7, to where it's only one killer. And I think it would be executed very well if it's done correctly, in my honest opinion. Now, with that being said, uh, I would actually like to see a little cameo, maybe from Noah and Emma, if they kind of do like a stab show thing, like they kind of shoot some new stuff with the Brandon James mask, for kind of like how Stab 8 was. And it's like a trailer or something. And at the end, we see like a little podcast with uh, Noah and Emma, and they're talking about the experiences of Lakewood. Hello, welcome again, Jordan Talks Film. Glad to see that you're here and uh, back again. So yeah, like I was saying, a little cameo within that, like it could be a trailer or something, and we see a like podcast type thing or an interview with Noah and Emma talking about the experience of Lakewood, which I think would be honestly cool in my opinion. Like they could be even endorsing the show, and just a small thought on my end with that. But uh, there's that. But yeah, I'd like to see maybe a less clumsy esque type Ghostface, similar to how Kieran and even kind of Piper was at times. I mean, they weren't really clumsy in that, and I think it would definitely do the show some movie, excuse me, well, to show an example of that, and have a less clumsy ghost face, or even if they go different route, just something that's a little different. But the college setting, I think, really will work now that you have now that you had brought it up in last night's stream. Exactly, they weren't, and it made it even more intimidating, seeing that they weren't clumsy, because they everything they did really was strategic and very intimidating at times, more than your typical ghost face. I mean, when yeah, even darker. I mean, there's different routes you could go with that, and I'd be very excited to see how they go about that. I think if it's done with one killer, it could be one of the darker esque films they've done in a while, and I think it would definitely suit the movie well to go in a darker tone. And maybe, I mean, I still want a little comedy, but tone that down and make it darker. I thought the show had that really good, like, comedy here and there, but felt dark. I mean, just look at how when Riley was killed, I mean, he was going down that thing, and with the gate thing, he was just running his knife against that, and that sound of the clinking from the metal, very intimidating to see on screen, and how he went after that. Or even in like season 2, with how he was in that school, more tactical, sneaking up behind that teacher and throwing her down the stairs, and that you could easily implement small things like just those esque scenes even more in a movie if it's done right. And definitely try to get away from using Sidney Prescott as the main person. But that's just personally me, in my opinion. Now, the one thing I really do want to see in Scream 6 is, I brought up, and I think a few other people brought up as well, that that I'd really like to see them use like something where Sam is kind of goaded into like attacking someone, and she blacks out and she isn't sure if she had killed that person, and that through the whole movie Tara's the only one that believes she didn't do it, and they have to show Sam's innocence. And I think it would be an interesting angle to take with that one. That proves that she because exactly. We do know, and the red herrings in there with Gustavo, because of how he was drawing them for that like comic book esque thing. that he was doing, and you had Seth Branson being set up, and he even had like fingerprints in that to use against Branson, even though he was dead after they. No wait, yeah, because they had that. They were using him as a red herring, and then he ended up getting burned, and they found him at that one house that the mayor was going to sell that he wanted Jake to burn in that. And even outside, you could see Kieran just sneaking past a little bit in that uh, scene at that house, and it was very interesting to see, and is definitely something worth going and exploring in a movie. If it can work in a show, they could definitely make it work in the movies. Personally speaking, but if they don't do one, it's got to be three. I think in this one, if you're going to really for the push the boundaries, either do three or one. No more than three, but try to stay away from two. It's kind of too predictable with two. If you do three, you could even have a killer revealed early on in the thing, whether it be in the opening kill or even midway through, and we still see the two of them there. But that's just my personal thought and opinion on that. But definitely, I want to see Sam kind of fight that inner demon. I don't want them just to have her turn full out evil. I mean, I do want to see like a sister versus sister thing, but then it kind of goes back to Scream 3 with Roman versus Sydney at the end. So I don't know if I'd be fully into seeing that happen on screen. And part of me would like to see two final girls instead of just typical one, which was always Sydney. Yeah, yeah, you could easily do that. Like one of the ghost faces, had kidnapped an innocent bystander, or even one of the friends. She she gets egged on, blacks out, but we don't see if the person's alive or dead either, so we don't fully know about that experience. And we think because of how violent it looks, the person could be dead. And it would just definitely be an interesting concept. It doesn't even have to be just shooting. She could go stab happy if you want to use that as her main thing. If we only see her do it once again, I I wouldn't be opposed to it. But shooting would be far more interesting with that concept. And there's so much, and they could implement a lot from the first two shows. And I'm always going to go back to saying the shows knew what they were doing. Kind of in the first two seasons, three got a little too off the wall, but three did some things right with the kills. Uh, but there's just so much they could do, and it does. If they implement anything from the show in Scream 6 is going to have won me over, but they have to do it in their own way at the same time. They can't take like line from from the show and just put it in the movie and think it's going to work. It's got to be similar, but not so outstanding that it looks the same, or then you will completely lost most of your audience, because I doubt that the majority going into Scream 6 is going to understand those references. Hey, welcome, Amber. I'm glad to see that you're here. Hope your day's been good. So far, so good for me. But yeah, I'd like to see them implement it, but not go full on carbon copy from the show either, personally. But they could take a lot from that show, because that show, at least the first two seasons, like I said, really knew what it was doing, and it made sense with a different mask. Hey, I completely understand. I didn't get up till like noon, so I mean it was late last night. They streamed what, like 7+ hours. I mean, I still gotta go get X when it comes out, and because I'm not doing the renting for 20. If I'm gonna pay $20 for a movie, it's something I want to keep. It pretty much did, because first Bearder got off like at 3, and then Craven went on for doing the X Watch party. Yeah, so it would have been, but yeah, because they got off like 3, and yeah, it would have been like an hour. It would have started because I'm sure there was some technical run-ins there. But yeah, us East Coast guys never get much love, man. We're always up till like 4 in the morning watching them. I can't wait to see it. Please do not spoil it for me. I've heard only good things about it, and I got to see it for myself, and I gotta wait till May. But yeah, like I was saying, with that, I'm not paying 20 just to rent it and watch it once, and then like pay 20 again to buy it. I'm just gonna wait till I can buy it for like that price, and then I can at least rewatch it at my leisure. Because that's a steep rental price. If it was like $2.99, then yeah, that I would have probably stayed up. Well, seeing that, seeing TCM vibes has me a little nervous because anybody that knows me knows, and that gets very stale for me very quickly. But that's just my thoughts on it. Yeah, yeah, you had said that. I think it was in Instagram or via text because because I kind of fell asleep and woke back up. So well, if it's just the atmosphere, then I can deal with that. Then yeah. Well, if you're saying it's better than TCM, well, I would imagine so. I do trust A24 when it comes to their own type of stuff. I've seen A24 has made some good things from what I've heard. I still got to see a lot of like their stuff, but I've heard nothing but positive things from that studio. So it's definitely going to be a watch. But yeah, but definitely they gotta. I think Radio Silence has to not use Sam going to the dark side. I mean, it could benefit the story, but I think having two final girls is something Scream hasn't done except kind of in the show. Guess you could argue with Emma and Brooke and even well no, because Audrey Audrey was being the victim in season 2, I wouldn't really consider her quite the final girl. I consider her more in maybe like season 1 is the final. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out when it comes out on DVD or even digital. So that way, at least I can rewatch it multiple times. Renting it at that price is a little stupid, in my opinion. I mean, it's one thing if it was like still out in theaters. Like if I went to the theater and had to shell out like 20. But yeah, it's definitely. I think the college setting. I'm finally letting it sink in. It's gonna. It does make the most sense. I mean, you have Tara, Mindy, Chad, who are all. Yeah, that is true. It could still be in a few theaters. But I really don't want to travel like 20 miles just to see if it's still down here. It's the problem about being in the middle of nowhere. But but yeah, I don't want to see them just like I was saying with the college. It makes sense. I mean, Chad, Mindy, Tara, they all are like fresh out of high school. So going into a college setting makes sense. I mean, is it kind of repetitive? It could be, but I don't think they're going to do a straight on carbon copy. I think Gail's going to play a huge part in it. And I think it's going to take place in New York, not Ohio. And I think something's going to be happening with Gail, which leads to Sam and Tara and Chad and Mindy having to be involved and trying to help out with that. And we're not going to have Sydney in this because it's in New York. It's well away from like California. And I would still say she's probably out living in California. So it would make sense not to have Sydney be the prime person here. I think we'll get a Sydney cameo. I think either Sam or Gail will call Sydney for advice. I'd prefer it being Sam asking for advice. But you could make an argument for Gail making the call and asking for some advice, or if she should get Sam and the other kids involved. I could see that happening as well. I'm wondering if they're gonna. I have heard that. I have heard. I've heard rumblings that there may be a prequel in the show involving Sam, but not anything concrete. More like speculation from people. Like, oh, they do want to bring the show back. It might be something with a younger Sam Carpenter, but I can't speak on that one right now. Oh yeah, fully understandable. But I'm probably gonna get off in like about like 7:50. I think 6:50 your time because Fate's gonna go live. So I'm gonna probably around like 7:50 get off and go over there. Probably if it's for 6, it's probably going to be for a flashback. Yeah, like Jordan said, because it's not. I don't see them doing a whole prequel route just for one movie. It wouldn't make any sense in this trilogy. At least to me, it wouldn't make any sense to have 5 and then just go back and as a prequel because then it's taking away from. Because then it's mostly going to just focus on Sam at that point, and then you have no Tara, Mindy, Chad. Because what good's that going to do for those characters to be built up if they do any character development? I think it's just going to be a flashback. I think that's going to be a flashback where we see Christina Carpenter. Well, I think personally, I think in that flashback though, it's the person that's going. It's probably going to reveal who Christina Carpenter was for the fans. She could be, but I'm thinking more along the lines of where we were talking last night, though. What if it sets something up where we only see the flashback where she finds diaries and we see who the mother was? I mean, there's so many things that could happen here. That's true, necessary. But if there's one thing I know, they're not gonna. They're bringing. I know they're gonna bring back. They're gonna bring back at least Mindy and Chad. Too much coincidences with them on Twitter with things that were said that they're not going to be back. And plus, when you think about how Chad lived, they wanted him for another movie. They're bringing him back in this. But we can't go off of nobody being signed because they're probably already signed and just haven't been announced. I mean, they don't want to ruin everything before filming starts or. Exactly, Jordan. That's what I mean. There's no way they're not going to sign them. And plus, if anything, filming starts what in about a month and a week, about a month and a week away. So the people would have had to have already been signed. They're not going to wait till the last minute to sign them. They're going to wait to announce them probably. I'm going to say about mid-June, mid-June, mid-May. We'll probably get Tara, Jenna Ortega. I mean, and Melissa Barrera announced the signings. Definitely, because there's no way they're doing a whole trilogy with this, so I just can't see them not bringing the 4 of them back. The only one you can make an argument for is Sydney. It, exactly, exactly, but that also doesn't mean anything immediately. it, I mean, when you think about it, say they do different filming scenes, they might show up at different times to start filming. Like one day might like they might start later if they're going to start like a flashback scene filming first. Because I've seen things where even though people were announced for filming, they weren't there like within the first week. Like they showed up a week later. But hey, it does an Instagram. It can, but you can also turn off the location. So if they want to, if I'm them, if I'm working with Radio Silence, I'm telling them to make sure you don't do anything that would give off the location, because then there's the whole cast screwed over right there. Everybody under the sun's gonna know before the announcements. So if I'm with Radio Silence, that you got to make sure that the geotag and the location part is off, or that will ruin things. Now, there are going to be people within the community that live up in Canada and are probably going to go and try to get in the film as like background characters, even try out just for a minor role here and there. So don't. I mean, if like I said, it's me personally thinking if I'm with a studio, you can't be making everybody's location, because then that's just gonna because and you gotta watch what you post too with pictures and that, because they screwed up royally well before I knew about this. Stu, as we knew Stu's house was coming back, it ruined the surprise factor that should have been a surprise factor. They got to be smarter with the social media, and they got to be smarter with how it's marketed as well. They can't be doing what they did with Five. Five gave too much in that trailer, and too much before even the trailer came out with pictures that were seen. I mean, that's just me though. As much as I want to know what's going on, I'd rather not know what's going on and be surprised. Yeah, it was too obvious. When I saw that, even before I found the whole Cravenites and Fate, I'm like, this is setting up Dewey's death. I mean, it's too dark and ominous not to be preparing me for his death. And when you think about it, they kind of made David Arquette kind of that excuse me, kind of that head front in promoting the movie. And that made me a little iffy there too, because you made Arquette the primary promoting guy. Something doesn't seem right here. It's not even like exactly, he was, and something just didn't feel right. It was off. It was never that head front with Dewey promoting any of the other screams. So that's when I knew something was like, oh no, Dewey's dead. Because so what they need to do, what they really need to do is focus on keeping pictures out of people's socials that might ruin things, like with certain cast members and certain locations. I mean, obviously, I highly doubt we're going to get Stu Macher's house back in 6, unless it's a flashback. But they need to make sure they keep things really hushed and watch what they promote outside of just the normal promotion. Like, because one small thing could ruin something big in the end. I mean, yeah. I mean, we knew from that clip and the fact he was the head of it, of promoting. I mean, he was everywhere. That's the first big no-no, because when you look at the original, if I'm not mistaken, Drew Barrymore was well promoted, but they didn't give anything away in the sense she was going to die, but she was that head person. Now that we're well past 96, it kind of leads too much on. It kind of starts playing with your head a little bit. And it's like, oh, is that person going to be dead? And then you see him being the head of promotions. Bye-bye. But I will say, the way they went with the death, and I do appreciate with the small subtleties in there. Because when you look at, I was just one at the time. I'm not going back while I'm doing this to see the exact thing. But I'm going to say this, and this could possibly be the most controversial thing, but okay, yeah, I can't argue. The soundtrack spoiled some people too. But the one thing I'm going to say here, and this can really be a very controversial statement, if they go too far off the rails in this movie, it's either going to A, make it better than 5, which really they can only go up from what 5 was, or they put too much out on the line and they go down the route of only fan service with no purpose and plummet the franchise into the ground. So, if I'm them, you stick to simplicity, but not ruin it. Don't just go the fan service route to go the fan service route, or you're going to have your Halloween Kills type problems, and it's just going to look very bad for the franchise, and you don't know if it'll ever fully recover from that with radio silence. And I have some serious questions if they can make their own. But I'm going to hold out faith that it can be better than 5. Till they show me otherwise, I'm going to remain positive with them for that purpose. So, but there is one other thing that would be very interesting to see happen in this. If you do go down wanting to bring Stu back, this is the movie you have to lay that foundation on. And it's going to be tricky enough on them. Okay, Necessary. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you later on. We'll probably text later and that as well, because I got to get back to Jordan now. So got Bobby. Hey, Craven Something Scary. How are you doing? Glad to see you in here. But yeah, Jordan, the one other thing that I think they need to do, and this is going to annoy a lot of fans, they got to put in a Stab TV series reference. Because it's been too long, and now would be the perfect setup just for that small bit in there. I know a lot of people will hate it, but it's got to be in there because we already had that Scream TV series in real life. Now is your chance to capitalize on it while you can. Promote that, because you're talking about maybe doing a new series. You got to start laying that foundation in there as well. Get it promoted while you have free advertisement in your own kind of movie. But I still say, if we do get it, get the same writers from seasons 1 and 2. They will know how they can incorporate a time jump from the ending of season 2. And we can finally get that true ending to season 3 compared to the season 3 we got. But that's just my humble opinion with that, because of how much the show made things. Because, and I'm going to say it a million times, and I sound like a broken record to my family and even some of my friends, but Kieran was the smarter killer out of anybody from the show to the movie. Piper had that as well. They never showed clumsiness. But if you want to talk about sheer brutality as a killer, it has to go to Kieran. He was sick in his head. He was sicker than even Stu and Billy. I mean, he drowned a girl alive. He tormented Emma into oblivion with the whole Will situation. Riley with the arteries and stabbing her out, making her bleed out slowly, but having enough life just to call and talk to Noah for that one last split second. The way he framed Seth Branson, the way he was framing Eli, his cousin, the way he killed Rachel. It was all these little things that made Scream even more entertaining. And it's sad that the most entertaining aspect of not being clumsy came from the show. You'd think you would have saw that in the movie, really not with the clumsiness of it all. But even in the original, you had Stu when he was behind there a little too clumsy. And it made me question it at times. But I stand by the movies, but the show still holds that near and dear to me to where I think they can incorporate it into a movie. But anyway, I'm going to get going. I'm going to get ready for Fate's live stream tonight. So I hope you all have a wonderful night. See you all in the next one and on your channels as well for the next videos that you guys post. So have a wonderful night and be sure to hit the like and take care. Good night.